Something that you find a lot is Mexican street corn. I'm sure you've had it somewhere in New York City. What they do is they put mayo on it. So I thought we'd make a little mayo with egg yolks. 2 beautiful egg yolks. Well, I guess we're making an aioli, because an aioli technically is a flavored mayo. So I'm gonna add some roughly chopped garlic with salt in it. That's sort of how you make a paste. And here is some cayenne and paprika. Here are egg yolks. And now we need to emulsify. So a slow, steady stream of a neutral oil, in this case, grapeseed. I think that looks nice right there. You should stick a pinky in that. That's good. All right, so we're gonna fridge this. And now, some corn. So here's a little thing that we can do. It's very unexciting. And it's gonna be kind of hard to cook. So something that we can do is add a tablespoon of water in there. Nice, and you can see right away, do you see the difference of those kernels? And now that that's happened, you can kind of just go like this here. Just a little bit. Gorgeous. Just so we get some steam going again. Small tent with a small perforation in the top. Next thing you want to do is take it out. I'm coming out with the aioli. Drizzle paprika over the top. What's very non-traditional Mexican that a lot of Mexicans started doing?
Cinco de Mayo.
Really?
Yeah, well, in America it's the misconception that it's the Independence Day of Mexico, which is not. It's the Batalla de Puebla, which is nothing as big as our independence, which is in September.
Well, do you have a favorite thing about New York?
You can just walk everywhere. It's beautiful. And right now in the summer it's like nice and warm, and sitting in the cafes, being able to walk around, which is something that in Mexico City, only in certain areas, you never see people just walking. Sidewalks are also sometimes not so great. Yeah, and there's lots of pollution, the cars. So it's not only certain areas, like La Roma or La Condesa, which are downtown, they're becoming more and more beautiful for that. So a lot of foreigners are moving there. Yeah, it's having a bit more of a European feel than the rest of Mexico City.
What is a really Mexican tradition?
Out of the top of my head, the first thing that came to mind were piñatas.
Okay.
I mean, I think right now in the US, you have them, they become a bit of a joke, but in Mexico, traditionally, they're actually used only in Christmas for the posadas. And they're filled with fruit, some nuts, mandarins, pistachios, stuff like that. And they're traditionally made with clay, which is obviously fairly dangerous. There were some accidents, so now they usually just do them with papier-mâché, and now they're gone into birthdays.
And what's the deal with the blue corn tortilla?
Yeah, the blue corn tortillas, I think, are my favorite. Maybe it's not as much about the taste, but the color and a bit the texture as well. So yeah, tortillas are something that most Mexicans, we don't mess around with. We just find the best place to buy them.
So you don't make them?
No, we don't make them at home. So what you can do is you buy it's called nixtamal, which is the ground corn. So that you can buy, but you have to find a very, very good one, and you have to really know what you're doing, because as you may have realized, it's not as easy as it sounds. I know that in Mexico City, a lot of restaurants, to get away with this, they add a bit of flour, which is really not the traditional tortillas, which should just be corn, a bit of salt, and that's it.
And water?
Well, water, of course, but water is usually an essential ingredient in most things.
How do you make your salsa verde? Because I was boiling the tomatillas, then I was grilling them, then I just decided they were best raw.
I personally prefer the raw. Well, really, if we want to go really traditional, you use the molcajete, which is like round wooden stone made out of, with a mortar. It's the mortar. What do you call it? Mortar and pestle. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so that's how you traditionally make the salsa verde. So it's like comes out very chunky with the onion. You cut it. But I prefer when you cut it really, really thin, so you don't actually get the big chunks of onion. Yeah. Just kind of get the juice and the flavor.
Molcajete.
Yes.
Is that too much?
Yeah.
I'm trying.
I put cilantro in. Yes, cilantro is an essential. Salt, pepper, and also like if the tomatillos are not that flavorful, I would add maybe a bit of garlic to just like kick in the flavor. It's not that traditional, but it does do the trick.
If you're gonna make your own tortillas, you should make it with masa, which is milled corn with a little bit of lime in it. It smells amazing. Just smelling it smells amazing, really. Yes, they come out dry unless you make them very, very wet. So that's really the secret. A little bit of warm water and masa. So, masa flour. Need more of that. Oh yeah. So you just start feeling it like this. It smells very corny. This you want much wetter than a pasta dough. It's completely different than a pasta dough because we're gonna fry them to cook them. Well, lightly fry them. We're gonna pan fry them. And this is very easy. As far as Messico is making dough, that's like nothing. Okay, it is a little mealy. So, believe it or not, more water, more honking. All right. Can you hear that? That's how wet we want it, nice and wet. And now we can just let this rest for 5 minutes, just 5 minutes while we prepare our press. You can use a rolling pin, but you wanna go for like golf ball sized things here. It works a lot better with a press. So, I want to demonstrate, if you don't have a press, how advantageous having a press is. And the great thing about a press is that it makes it perfectly round for you. If you use a rolling pin, you gotta, it's a little bit of a problem. So here is some parchment paper, here's some more parchment paper, and here we have a nice heavy pan, and I'm gonna try my best and put all my body weight on it. And what we end up with is this, which it looks okay. I'm gonna place it just behind center so it pushes out. So now you come in with this. Push down. And the difference in thickness is actually not as much as I wanted it to be. But from the same size ball, you can see two different sizes. All right, we got a very hot cast iron pan. Now we need an oil with a high smoke point, like grapeseed oil. Always push it away from you so you don't get fried or splattered. All right, so if they're not splitting around the edges when you're cooking them, then they ain't dry. And that's a good thing. If you deep fry them, you got tortilla chips, but for the most part, they're all maintaining their movability. Now as these dry, you start stacking them here in your warm bowl. This is sort of like soft toasted. But you do have to cook these. They can't be raw. All right, so here we have our tortillas, and we're just gonna fold them up like this, keep them warm, and serve that on the table. Salsa verde, green sauce. Salsa should be very, very spicy and very, very salty because you're only supposed to use a little bit of it. That's something that we don't really know in America because we do it the other way around. Now, it's very important that you start with this tomatillo fruit, which comes with this skin on it. It's very sticky. So you peel your tomatillos, and you just need a little bit of onion. So, 1/3 of a white onion. Boom, boom. So, throw me one more tomatillo. It's an eyeball thing, thank you. And I can see that there's too much onion because I'm silly and I put too much onion in. So I need to put more tomatillo. Okay. Now, as far as peppers go, you never really know how hot they are, so you start with one, and you can just kind of taste from there and see what happens. You want it to be spicier than you think. Don't even tell the people that don't like cilantro that there's cilantro on this. They're gonna love it. Really, they don't even know half the time. They're just pains, these people. Got our raw tomatillo salsa verde. We've added a lot of salt and a lot of pepper. And it's spicy and it's salty. But it also cuts through because it's got that acidic fruit thing, which is awesome, and the onion, obviously. Salsa verde. So now we're gonna grill some steak, carne asada, for our corn tortilla and salsa verde. Since we're living in the city here, it's very hard to emulate grilling techniques. So one thing I like to do is use sugar for the effect of caramelization. Twice as much paprika as brown sugar. Black pepper. It's basically equal parts everything except the paprika, which you do double. And this is ground coffee because coffee is roasted, so that emulates grilling. And the Koreans use this on meat a lot too. It's not that crazy. Touch cayenne. Mixture. Now already I've got roasted flavors that I can smell, so that's awesome. We didn't put any salt because we're gonna do that like regular. So here's a skirt steak. Here it is. We just need to cut this bad boy into, let's say 3 parts for our grill pan. Now, salt. One, 2, 3. Get your grill hot. Really hot. Salt. Throw your steak. Throw your steak.
Throw your steak.
If you can get 2 in there, that'd be great. All right, skirt steak you don't want to cook too long. It's very, very thin. We have super high heat. You can see it's already got grill marks, so flip it over. So when we're cooking the steaks, we want to be going in this sort of 130 direction over here. So that when we flip them, we get the grill marks. Beautiful, gorgeous, bobbity boobity. So here we go. 1. Let that rest. Let that rest. Throw the other 2 down. So obviously all this stuff cooks pretty quickly. That being said, it's still important not to cut into your meat immediately so the juices can redistribute and it doesn't all pour out. We can wet it up with salsa verde, which we're gonna do, but it's best to also just have generally juicy meat. Okay, one thing that's really cool about skirt steak is you can actually see the fibers. They're going this way. And you want to cut against the fibers. So that means taking the meat and going this way and then actually cutting it like this. Cutting against the grain, which seems counterintuitive, but then you get much nicer texture in your mouth. You want one? So we didn't use any oil on the pan because there's plenty of fat happening here. So this is a clean pan. You've got a delicious grilled steak on a freshly made corn tortilla. And now you've got your salsa verde.
So mole is traditional in different parts of Mexico. So we have the mole negro, which is Oaxaca, which is south, mole verde, which is Puebla. And it depends on person to person. I think on average it has about 30 different ingredients. Traditionally it should take about a few days to cook. So it's something that you just like go around mixing, adding ingredients, and then what they do is they dehydrate it and they just keep it as powder. And then you add, what do you call it, consommé de pollo, which is the chicken broth.
Stock.
Yeah, yes, the chicken stock to it. Or you can just do water as well, but the chicken stock adds a bit more flavor.
What would you make first at home, a tortilla or mole?
Two things that I would not attempt at home to begin with, but I think mole would be really, really interesting to make. Buying mole is actually what should be done unless you really know what you're doing and are willing to spend a few days.
So we've got salsa verde, we've got our corn tortillas, we have a lovely carne asada, we've got corn. I'm gonna have a drink later. What do you make as a third thing? Well, I thought some simple chicken in a mole sauce would be really good. Let me show you how to cut up a whole chicken, which is much more economical than buying the parts. And the first thing you can do is flip it over so that you've got the tail in your hand here, and this is the spine. And with your scissors, you can just cut along the spine on the side. Okay? So now the spine is on this side right here. Now we're gonna do the same on the other side. So you're cutting through small rib bones here. Now you can save that for a stock, which I will do. All right, so right here there's this sort of crazy bone. So what you want to do is sort of stick your paring knife in the end. When you get the piece of cartilage, run your finger in there. I'm following the bone with my finger here. This is the keel. It's the breastbone. And it will come out eventually. There we go. There it is. So that comes out. Now you can cut your chicken in half. Over here you got a wing. Feel the joint. Play with it. It's good to touch your food. Now the joint comes out, and now you should just be able to very easily. There's a wing. Now, here, you can make a drumstick. You can take the whole thing. I like to make a drumstick. So you actually want to come over here a little bit so you can keep the skin on. In order to not cut too much and ruin like the skin and stuff, this is why you want to use your hands. And look, we just took the bone right out. Lovely. Now you can come in. Okay. There's a drumstick. Here's a skinless breast for you. It actually is nice, despite the fact that it doesn't look so nice when I'm doing it. Mole from Mexico, from my friend Rodrigo. It has so many things in it, and it requires heavy-duty machinery to make it. So what you do is you take some and you put it in a pan. Oh, you hear that sound. It's a very, very rich thing with 50 plus ingredients of peppers and roots and spices. So really it just needs a little bit of water. And then you mix them together. Oh, it smells so chocolatey and of the earth. Now that's not a recipe. That's just something that you should eat. Now that we have our chicken parts, and take our hot pan out of the oven. Get some breast in there. A wing. Let's get another wing. I'm gonna put our oven to 300 degrees. So, spread it around. How can this not be good? It's gonna be delicious. Raclette, which is French, but apparently going to melt very well. Oh, yeah. This is pretty easy if you've got mole. I mean, why wouldn't you want to do this? It takes 2 seconds. Except for the butchering the chicken part. Well, that doesn't take so long either. Top on. In the oven. Let's check on it in like 40 minutes.